Before the hype, before celebrity bottles, before tequila became a luxury flex, there was a man in a family bar who believed one thing: the spirit deserved respect. While the world chased chaos with salt, lime, and regret, Julio Bermejo introduced patience, intention, and truth. Tommy's Margarita didn't explode because it was trendy. It spread because it was authentic. And when the world finally paused long enough to sip and not shoot, they realized he didn't just elevate a cocktail. He rewired culture around tequila. Today we sit with the man whose legacy pours into every glass, in every corner of the world. On this episode of Tactical Tequila Podcast, with your host, Matt Wilson. If you enjoy the show, hit the like button, subscribe, and share it to your social media platforms. Thanks for tuning in, and enjoy the show. Welcome back, everyone. Matt with Tactical Tequila Podcast here. Tonight, we have a great show planned for you. On tonight's show, I have guest host Tommy Oles from the Las Vegas Tequila Club, and we have a special guest on the show tonight. It is Julio Bermejo, the one, the only inventor of the Tommy's Margarita. He didn't ask for permission. He changed the narrative. In a world obsessed with shortcuts, he doubled down on purity and purpose. Tommy's Margarita became the blueprint, and sipping became the standard. This isn't just a name on a menu. It's the legacy shaped by conviction. This is Julio Bermejo, and he didn't follow the industry followed him. Julio, thank you so much for being on the show. Welcome.
Matt, thank you so much. Well, welcome to Tommy as well, and it's a pleasure to be on Tactical Tequila.
Tommy, welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you, sir. It's good to be back on.
So just kind of want to dive into things, Julio. When you created Tommy's Margarita, did you realize that you were rewriting tequila history, or did it just feel like a bartender trying to make a drink that tasted honest?
It was the latter. Matt, there was I didn't sit down to quote unquote make the better mousetrap. We just wanted to make a cocktail that was so delicious, and that tasted of what went in it. Now, as basic as that sounds, and as logical as that may sound today, that was never the case. And in particular, with a cocktail literally as iconic as the margarita, I think it's been an embarrassment, even to this day, that people don't put the emphasis on the largest component in the drink, in tequila.
When was the exact moment that you felt that you knew Tommy's Margarita was bigger than your bar and that it became a movement?
Well, okay, so I can remember two distinct moments, one in Europe and one in America, that really blew my mind. So what actually happened in Europe was I started to work in Europe in 2001 when I was invited to as an expert for the CRT when President oh my God, what's his name? When the president of Mexico went to the UK and the EU to sign the denomination of origin agreements with those countries recognizing tequila. And my responsibility was, quote unquote, teaching London/European bartenders about tequila. And what we had a gathering of 31 producers from Mexico, the largest such gathering ever assembled outside of Mexico. And they brought their tequilas, and we had them out on tables. And I was just answering questions. And what blew my mind was these bartenders would ask me questions about production and flavor profile. And I mean, that sounds very logical again, but that was very novel. That wasn't happening in America. And when they asked me that, I started to tell these bartenders, look, you guys ever go to Mexico? I'd love to take you guys to Mexico and show you in person. And so we started taking eventually European bartenders to Mexico, but we would bring them through San Francisco so they could see the work I was doing at Tommy's. And at Tommy's, again, remember, the cocktail was never called the Tommy's Margarita. Simply, it was simply the house margarita served at a venue called Tommy's. It was these foreigners from Europe that came and saw what I was doing and started calling it the Tommy's Margarita. So the first moment was when I start to, after that experience, see the Tommy's placed on menus in Europe, and then also see the gentlemen, mainly the gentlemen, the male bartenders that we had come into contact, start putting that drink into their menus in the consultancies they were doing. That was huge. But in America, what really literally was a sledgehammer was one day I'm at Tommy's and I have no idea of the year, but someone said, hey, they just opened up a Denny's in New York City and Manhattan that serves cocktails, and the margarita on the menu is the Tommy's. And I thought that was significant because Denny's is, I mean, to me, not only iconic, but it was a place that anybody could go to. So it was totally had mass appeal and already mass acceptance. So those were the two biggest quote unquote career blowing moments for me.
Now, you mentioned that the Europeans were talking more about flavor profile than the bartenders in America. When did you start seeing bartenders in America start asking more about flavor profiles?
God, it would take a good 5 to 10 years later,
Oh, wow.
easily, because remember there was um, I mean, I think I did a couple of things that were pretty monumental. The first one is switching from mixto tequila to 100%. That also, I mean, it was a natural progression, but at that time when we do that, we were lucky that the people mentoring me, I think, were from great companies. So, our first house tequila was Herradura Blanco Suave. And back when the Romo de la Peña family owned Herradura, I would not only argue, but um, I would insist that Herradura was the best valley produced tequila in the world, if not the best tequila produced in the world, um, and all because of quality. So we were lucky in that regard. But to the average consumer, the notion of 100% agave was still vague and unclear. And also, our availability of products in the 100% agave, quote unquote, pouring range were very limited. It was basically Hornitos and Herradura, basically.
So now in the margarita mix that you make up, it's agave nectar, lime, and tequila basically.
Yes, but we
And
dilute the agave fructose depending on the bricks of the agave.
okay. Now when you first told other bartenders basically stop shaking with the triple sec and using the agave nectar, how many of them called you crazy?
Oh man, people had no clue what we were talking about. But also, this is a kind of interesting thing. Um, I it was our quote unquote competitive advantage that we knew what agave was, but there wasn't I don't know how to explain this. Um it was not like it was a secret, but it seemed like it was a secret, right? Because Tommy's could say our margaritas, or we thought our margaritas were better, and that guests should come to Tommy's to have this experience. But it was kind of like a little bit of a secret. It was weird because agave was so new, and remember, it was an ingredient that first found popularity on the health food side of the business. It wasn't there weren't drinks companies promoting it, right? There weren't. And there weren't tequila companies promoting its use either. I mean, I remember in San Francisco attending a small, a quote unquote liquor convention that was held at uh, it was a venue, and it was full of vendors from every kind of company, gin, vodka, and every triple sec company, et cetera, and modifiers, et cetera. And I remember distinctly this French triple sec company asking me by reading my badge that said Julio from Tommy's Mexican Restaurant if we served margaritas. And of course, I said yes. And his response was, if we served our margaritas made with this fancy French triple sec, I could use the cheapest tequila possible because then my margarita would taste of his fancy French triple sec. And I guess his idea was I would save money by using cheap tequila and making a margarita that tasted like his product. My response was, I wanted our margaritas a taste of tequila. And that was a notion that even to someone in the business was completely bizarre and unexpected. I mean, so the learning curve in America was still really, really low.
Now, throughout this whole time, did you ever doubt yourself, or was your conviction louder than the critics' voices?
Oh, to, I think if you talk to longtime guests at Tommy's, they'll say that I was a little bit kind of extreme in my belief of 100% agave. But it came about, Matt and Tommy, not from me knowing, because, like all of us, I had to be taught. But luckily, when someone gave me the opportunity to compare things in the glass, it was obvious that 100% agave in this case was mind blowingly more flavorful and complex than mixto. I mean, yes, it was also more expensive, but it's kind of like the Maya Angelou saying, you do your best until you know better.
Now, let's kind of just shift gears a little bit. So, if Tommy's had failed, who would Julio Bermejo be today?
Well, look, if Tommy's was a corporate business, I would have been fired the day I made the switch from mixto to 100% agave, for the simple reason that, again, you're talking 40 years ago. I increased my family's pour cost on drinks from $5 a liter from Sauza Hero, which with all due respect, I thought tasted pretty good. to Herradura Blanco Suave, which at that time wholesaled for maybe $16 or $17 a liter. So
Wow.
basically 4 times the money. And I only increased our drink price something like 50 cents. So I would have been fired because I don't know anything about economics and math. But but my parents allowed me to do this, and I was hoping that our guests would catch up and taste the difference, and they did. And we quickly started getting a reputation for making these unbelievably delicious margaritas that slowly but surely people were saying, wow, but you don't get hung over, right?
So when you watch other bartenders around the world serve your margarita, how does that make you feel?
You know, it's pretty remarkable. I mean, I remember I took my mother to a wedding in South Africa in 2005, and my mother had never been to South Africa, and I had been there a couple of times, but I took her to a bar that I had never been to, and I mean it was a bar of good reputation, and it was a cocktail bar, but I walked my mother to the bar, and we're approached by two African bartenders, and I go, "Hey, can you make us two Tommy's margaritas?" And the gentleman just said, "Yes, of course," without hesitation. My mother's face just went blank. She was in disbelief that someone halfway around the world had ever heard of Tommy's or ever heard of the drink or anything to that sort. I mean, it's really amazing. It's pretty cool. But if I could relay my funniest experience, I was a newlywed, and I was working on Crystal Cruises, and I had the opportunity to take my wife, and it was on the actual cruise tour was on the Iberian Peninsula, so it was Spain and Portugal, and I hadn't been to Lisbon in like 25 or 30 years. And so I contacted friends in London saying, "Hey, I'm going to be in Lisbon. Where should I go have a cocktail?" And everybody recommended at this time a place called Cinco Lounge, which was owned by a gentleman from England. And so I take my wife. We show up right when they open because I like going to bars when they open and not when they're totally packed out and it's stressful for everybody. But so anyway, we're the only two guests there. I asked for the menu, and they give me this uh, really big menu of cocktails. And the bartender is like 22 or 23. And I look at the menu, I don't see what I like. So I just asked them in front of my wife, "Hey, can I just get a Tommy's margarita?" And this young bartender looks at me and he says, why do you want something? Why do you want a cocktail that you can drink anywhere in the world? Let me make you something original. And I go, sure. But when he said that, my wife started laughing hysterically because this guy was taking a big shit on me. But anyway, this kid proceeds to make us a great cocktail. And then at the end of the session, I gave a business card and a really fat tip. And I mean, at least the guy apologized.
So now when you created Tommy's Margarita, was your goal to create the most perfect margarita, or was it more of creating an unapologetic margarita?
No, the goal was to make a margarita that tasted of the tequila that was put in the drink. So one of the cool things we were doing at Tommy's, and we were doing it literally for free, because again, the guest at the outset, at the beginning, could taste the difference, but they didn't know why, right? And it was uncommon, even for tequila bars, to offer cocktails with different tequilas. The strategy always was you pick a pouring brand, right? That makes you as much money as you can. And then you have this beautiful back bar that people sip, right? I mean, I remember going to have Herradura Añejo at the Starlight Room, which was in San Francisco, a place known for great cocktails because Tony Abou-Ganim and Seth Martin created the program there and were crushing it. And I would ask, well, can I get a cocktail with Herradura Añejo? And I would be talked out of it. That's too good to put in a drink, right? We had to overcome certain things. Now, Tommy's, we started carrying like 24 different 100% agave tequilas, but none of them had brand name recognition. No one had ever heard of Centinela. No one had ever heard of Siete Leguas 40 years ago. No one had ever heard of really Hornitos either. They had seen it when they went to Mexico. And of course, Herradura. People knew that the tequila connoisseur knew Herradura Reposado, but they weren't as familiar with Herradura Blanco or Añejo. I mean, it was fascinating. And pushing the idea that you can make a margarita with anything on our back bar was a little bit crazy, but it was also mind opening. And I found myself like when someone was brave enough to order a pitcher of different margaritas than the house, whoever was at the bar, I would have them grab a straw and actually, even though the drink belonged to someone else, it was kind of cool that they could take a clean straw, take a drop and try it and see that it tasted totally different from what they were drinking. And that started opening up eyes and minds to possibly making margaritas with different things.
What was the first moment that you had ever seen a celebrity or a tequila influencer butcher your creation and thought, you don't deserve this drink?
I wouldn't say it was like an influencer or something like that. I will say, Tommy's very fortunately can say with confidence it has the largest vintage selection of tequila in the world. And in San Francisco, we're lucky to have some guests that have a lot of money. And I would never refuse anyone a cocktail. But I have refused people to sell them expensive things if they just want to order them because they're expensive. I'd rather sell the guests that may have a history with the brand or a guest that appreciates something really rare than someone who just wants to drink winter blend because it's cool. I don't know if that makes sense.
I think it does.
It does to me as well.
Julio, earlier you had mentioned when you were at the bar with Tony Abou-Ganim, you had to be talked out of having a cocktail with Añejo. A lot of people are under the assumption that a Tommy's Margarita has to be made with a Blanco tequila. But I know for you that you prefer your personal Tommy Margarita with Añejo. Is that correct?
I do my own, yes. Yeah. But today, so there was a little bit of an evolution with that as well, Tommy, because, we first went from mixto to 100% agave blanco. And then about, I don't know, the span of 20 years, when now everybody started making their house margarita with 100% agave blanco, we kind of decided we would start making them with reposado. And so the house margarita today is a Valley Reposado.
Hmm.
But I personally, to your uh, to your correct observation, my favorite margarita is a Tapatio Añejo. I mean, it's just silky and soft, God, and so smooth and refreshing.
I've used that argument numerous times with people when people always claim, "Oh, it has to be Blanco." I said, "Well, the man who invented the drink himself prefers to be añejo." So
Yeah, but we're all different.
it's
That's why
true.
they're colors of the rainbow.
That's right.
Yep.
And I have heard Tommy say that too.
Yep.
So if every margarita disappeared tomorrow except for Tommy's, would that be enough for you?
You No, you know what? I just want people to drink good drinks, right? I mean, drinks aren't cheap, and they shouldn't be cheap, especially when you're using arguably the most expensive distilled spirit in the world, liter per liter, when it's naturally hydrolyzed. So, I mean, and also, I kind of have this thing that I tell the guest. You know, when you go to a bar or restaurant, you're giving permission to total strangers to participate in the second most intimate act that you can ask humans to participate in. So if you're going to let someone put something in their body, I think the guest should know what they're putting in their bodies and should demand that they put good things in their bodies. So I would encourage everyone to drink better.
Throughout your whole process and the crafting of this margarita, would you ever say that you felt like a lone soldier fighting a culture addicted to salt, lime, and a regretful shot?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I, I would never mention any names, but I remember in the '80s when tequila started to get hot with, with certain restaurants in the southwest of this country. Um, you suddenly started getting all these quote unquote tequila experts that went one weekend to Jalisco and were suddenly writing all these books about it and books on cocktails. And the misunderstanding, I think, of the margarita still led to a lot of shitty made margaritas, even though people started to put better ingredients, you know. Um, but again, that's why we have that saying at Tommy's, please visit my competitors, It's
You know,
easy.
if the American tequila culture had a villain, who would it be?
If it had a villain, um, well, so this is going to be controversial. I think, I think the villain would be people who espouse the use of non naturally hydrolyzed tequila. And I totally understand that this is a big money business, and that you want to make it as cheaply as you can, and you want to charge as much as you can, and I guess make as much money as you can. But again, the basic notion that made me want to switch from mixto to 100% agave was simply the notion of serving something the way it was originally made and believing that the way it was originally made was the better way. So, as we all know, industrial production processes change over time, and improvements allow for certain economies of scale. Pardon me. And in tequila, the switch, the time savings from roasting agave in the ground to using an autoclave or a stone oven was pretty massive. The switch from, crushing with, by hand to crushing with the roller mill from a taona saved a lot of time. And then hydrolyzing with acids and enzymes versus naturally saves time. And you're still creating 100% agave tequila. But there are reasons why people do things the way they do. And a lot of times, the old ways I think are a little bit better. So I I I don't know. It's not being a villain, but uh, I mean, I just am sad for the consumer that is so easily uh uh so easily led down paths that aren't the best ones. So again, I'm sorry I didn't answer your question, except to say that I wish every tequila producer in the world made tequila naturally. But that's an unreal that'll never happen. Uh, but that's it. Well, I would also, you know, I have this saying: you can tell a lot of how a bar runs their business by what they pour in their well, right? Because everybody has a beautiful back bar and everybody has fancy glasses to pour tequila in. But what are they serving their guests that know nothing about their program or what they do? And a lot of times you'll see someone's well is the absolute worst, least expensive, lowest quality product. And then, you have a beautiful back bar. I mean, I think, it's also nice when the bar has a as a consideration for the guest that may not be a tequila nerd or an agave geek or something like that, and wants to just serve something even at the basic level that's nice and respectable.
Was there ever a moment where you thought that the world might not ever learn to respect the spirit?
Oh, you bet. Oh man, I thought I was the only moron trying to do this. But what's really nice was to get, you know, I mean, at the bar, the bartender got immediate, um, immediate, God, what do you say? Not recognition, but when the guest said, "Wow, that's the most delicious margarita I've ever had." I mean, that would lift my spirits all day. And luckily, it was happening very often that just, I mean, at least our guests seemed to love what we were doing. And they started telling their friends, and, you'd hear about, I mean, back then, again, there's no social media, there's no internet. So it was a lot of word of mouth of people going, wow, they make really good margaritas at Tommy's, and they use fresh ingredients. And I mean, again, things we take for granted, um, but that were important. And to this day, it's like right now it's winter, and as you may know, we squeeze all our limes a la minute. Well, this is the most challenging part of the year for us because we're buying, the limes that we buy, but because it's winter, supplies are more constrained. The quality of produce that comes from Mexico is not only more expensive, but it's lowering quality because people will just pick anything because you can sell it for more money. And managing the ripeness of our limes right now is a challenge, to the degree that sometimes you're going to walk into Tommy's in the winter and you'll see our lime trays, and we've had to peel the entire lime so that we can try to squeeze as much of the juice without introducing oil into the cocktail by squeezing rind.
And I and
It's
I actually
crazy.
and I actually witnessed you doing this a couple weeks ago when I was in Tommy's.
Yeah, it was brutal. I trust me. I have. I wish I had, better things to do with my time. But it has to
Julio,
be done.
I've spent longer than I ever expected to in a grocery store with you, picking through boxes of limes. When you're looking for limes, what does your ideal lime look like?
Well, an ideal lime is and first you got to understand that in America, limes are categorized by count size of how many fit in the box. So they can range from a huge lime being 100 counts all the way to the cheapest limes are probably 250 counts, right? That means there's 250 limes in an 18-kilogram box. We try to find a lime that's a true 200 count lime, because a true 200 count lime, when you cut it in half and it's ripe, will give you an ounce of juice,
Wow.
right? But what does the lime physically look like? The lime obviously has to be green, and it has to have a thin skin that has give to it, Tommy, so that you prep the lime, it's ripe. That's what you want.
Yeah, I was last time we were in the store together, I was like, there is definitely a science to picking the right lime to
Oh,
make a good Tommy's
absolutely.
margarita.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, so Tommy's turned 60 years old this year. And you may have heard I was on a quest to do 60 pop ups in 20 countries. And I ended up doing 60 pop ups, but in 19 countries. But my first pop up in Africa was in Johannesburg. And I show up and they literally gave me 6 pieces of lime. And
Wow.
I go, okay, so you want this to be a pop up that lasts 1.5 minutes? Because I can squeeze 6 limes in under 2 minutes, right? And they're looking at me like, what do you mean? I go, we need 100 times more limes than this. And they were in disbelief that we would sell so many margaritas. And they had to start running to the store every 15 minutes to buy limes. Luckily, they had them, but that's very common for me, where I'll go and they just think no one's gonna order the drink or no one's gonna like it, and they have like 10 limes for me, and it's a disaster.
Now, do you think the shot culture has killed more appreciation for tequila than additives ever have?
No, I think so. At a very early time in our evolution, we switched from the Mexican shot glass to the cognac glass, and then a couple years of of using cognac snifters, I switched to ISO tasting glasses. And then when Tony Abou-Ganim and David Grapschi and myself founded the TAG Global Spirits Competition and designed our own glassware, well, we started using glassware that we developed ourselves uh, to pour every tequila in. And I think the TAG glass that we created really, if you compare it to a Riedel glass or a Denver glass, does a really wonderful job. But so the our fundamental switch from shot glass to cognac glass showed our guests that this had to be that the liquid you were getting in your glass needed some more attention than just slamming it. Now, now the thing about additives that is that has kind of confounded me was, again, I would love to drink things that are really easy to drink and nice and sweet. But again, at the core of what I'm trying to do is I want to try to present the most natural thing possible. And alcohol, I don't care if it's $1 a shot, $10 million a glass, even when it's well made, has a heat component and a spice component and has a little bit of a burn. It's alcohol, but it doesn't mean it cannot be enjoyed and with great pleasure. So, when we get a guest that wants a tequila that is seemingly laden with additives, first, chances are we don't carry it, as we don't carry a lot of the things that the public drinks. But second, we'll also explain why we don't carry it and try to offer something to that guest in a similar style, as in similar region, uh, and that is completely natural, and hope that they enjoy it.
So, as you were talking earlier about Herradura, I have
Oh,
this bottle.
hang on, I'm trying to look. Wow, I'm trying to make it bigger. I can't make it bigger for some reason.
That's what she said.
Yeah, where'd you get that, Matt? That's beautiful.
So, I got that from Cecilia, actually.
Wow. So that looks like that's a 500 ml, right? Of Antigua?
It is.
Yeah, so that was a re-release in the 90s, I believe.
1997 is what was on the date on the bottle.
Yep. But that is such a cool label. Original bottles of Herradura that look like that. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but they had the chemical breakdown on the back of the front label. That was so badass. And one line, residual sugar in Herradura always said 0. Oh, it's fucking great. So it's not on Antigua. It is on real old bottles of Herradura.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll show you one next time you go to Tommy's.
Perfect. I'll be up there next week.
Oh, cool. Cool. Oh, by the way, can we talk about the World Cup?
Yeah.
Sure.
So there's this little soccer tournament that's going to happen and starts on June 11th. The inaugural game is in Mexico City, South Africa against Mexico. It's a replay of the 2010 World Cup opening game in Johannesburg. But I'm encouraging every tequila distillery to have a watch party. So, we're planning to take a group that week for distillery tours, and then also hopefully take a break and go to the game on Friday in Guadalajara on June 12th. But it'll be a wonderful time to visit Jalisco and Mexico. Not only see soccer, but drink the national drink.
Man, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
It's going to be cool.
Where are you guys staying?
Well, I don't want to blow it yet. I don't want everybody to book the reservations.
Yeah.
But I'd love to stay at Casa Sayas in Tequila.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That would be nice.
Yeah. But also, like, I attended a lunch yesterday with Pepe Hermosillo of Casa Noble, and he already has his tickets. His company's planning a watch party. So that's great. I mean, it's just nice that hopefully the industry gets behind it. And as you may or may not know, Grand Centenario are the sponsors of the Mexican national team. I don't, because they got money. So
They have interesting ad campaign right now too.
they do. What is it, Tommy?
It's talking about don't be a gringo, drink Grand Centenario.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty bold.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, did you guys see the new Cointreau ad campaign?
No.
No.
Well, what we were talking about a little bit, their campaign right now is any tequila, as long as you use Cointreau, makes a great margarita.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
So, in talking about hefty paychecks and, brands with money, Has a brand ever tried to pay you or to endorse something of garbage?
Unfortunately, yes. But we've
And
never done it. And the last time was in the middle of the pandemic. And I won't mention the brand, but Tommy's was closed or our business is shut down. I have no income. I'm offered $25,000 to say that XYZ tequila is good. And so I go, send me the samples because I never heard of it. And then I got the samples and I said, I can't do this. So,
Good for you.
yeah. Oh, there's only one way,
Yeah.
Uh, I'd rather be broke and stupid, I guess.
wouldn't we all?
Yeah.
Well,
It's a shame. It's a shame, guys, that, like from great tequila companies,
yeah.
I wish they would give us more swag. That's all we want. So we want to give it to guests to build brand awareness and build loyalty, but they don't even, I don't know, see the benefits of that.
It's interesting. You talk about the guests at Tommy's, and to speak on the hospitality of that. I mean, when you walk into Tommy's as a guest, you feel like you've been there for the 20th time, and it's your first time. Right away, everyone feels welcome. So it's there's a testament to honoring integrity for sure.
Thanks, Tommy. Appreciate
Yeah.
that. Well, and that I being hospitable, I mean, first of all, it's free. But second, if you've ever gone and I know I'm speaking to the choir, Matt, you work remotely in many other cities. When you can be made to feel welcome, it is the greatest feeling in the world. And there's a difference though when, like, if I mean, I'm sure we're all lucky enough too on that special occasion we can go to the fanciest restaurant on earth where they'll fucking Google you, they'll know you by name because they had to memorize your profile, memorize what you like so they can kiss your ass, and it's a performance. Or when you go to your neighborhood spot or that place that makes you feel welcome because they actually know you or really want to know you. I mean, I swear to God, you could serve me sand pretty much, but if you treat me right, I'm going there forever.
Yeah.
That's more important. Anyone can make
100%.
you a great drink or a great meal, but when it's complemented with genuine service and genuine care, you can even hear it in someone's voice.
As we talk about service in a world so engulfed in social media nowadays, do you feel that bartenders care more about their Instagram and social media than they do ingredients?
Um, Matt, I think you're absolutely correct. I think it's a shame that even though we have more information available to us at our fingertips instantaneously, that notion of making the guest feel welcome has been slightly abandoned, right? You know, I mean, to people just trying to get likes on their page. The greatest testament to success is the repeat customer or longevity in your business, right? And I know it's actually for us, these times are really tough because we're seeing in the Bay Area less and less young people go out and socialize and eat and drink for whatever reason. So we've had a challenging time, but I still love and just it warms my heart when we'll get a guest that moved away from San Francisco 30 years ago, but is in San Francisco on holiday or business or to look at the old neighborhood and comes to Tommy's to eat some chips and salsa and go, man, I remember when I was in school and I'd come here. That's just wonderful when people want to share memories with you. And I mean, we're not just selling enchiladas and Tommy's margaritas.
And it's funny that you mentioned that young people are not coming out and going out more. I was recently on a college campus and overheard a conversation of some college age students. It was a group of people. I want to say it was 3 females and 2 males that were talking, and one of the males said, I'm doing this whole year of not drinking and not going out. And my first thought was, how do you live life?
Oh,
Like,
agreed.
but and he starts to go further into his conversation, and it was, well, my friends are doing this, and it's like, a lot of younger people now aren't going out more, and I'm like, why? Like, even if you're not drinking alcohol, but go out, socialize, eat food, and have that interaction. And I just can't understand or wrap my head around why this generation coming up isn't being social.
Yeah, agreed. It's an interesting thing where one of the reasons that I used to love or still love going out and meeting people is to learn of someone else's experience, right or wrong. I mean, it's beautiful to be able to debate with someone and argue with someone in a good way. I mean, you learn more from that, in my opinion, than reading about the left or the right or the center or people who don't like guns and people who like guns. That's all fine and dandy. But looking in someone's eyes, hearing their intonation, and feeling what they say is critical. So even if you don't do it, like when you avoid it because you don't have any money or you're trying to save money or you don't believe in drinking, for example, it's still a loss to the human being because Matt, we need to socialize. This is I mean, there's certainly some bad actors, but people are for the most part still pretty nice and interesting. And I think it's a shame and it's their loss. But I don't know what to do to change it. Many people have told us that these young people are looking for quote unquote experiences. Well, I don't know. It seems the opposite. It seems that because of social media, they're content learning everything about their lives, you know, on some TikTok reel and not going out and talking to someone. I mean, even as a bartender, I still am really feel lucky when there's a meeting in San Francisco, like Pepe Hermosillo, who was the founder of Casa Noble. He held a luncheon yesterday, and he came to talk about his products. And I've heard him speak many times, and I think I know the products fairly well. But I still learned something from listening to him the fifth time. I mean, there's a great value of for me and just seeing different people. And I wish everyone shared that, but I don't know why we're so maybe scared of each other or scared of someone who has a different opinion.
I want to move into your legacy. If everything that you have built this far disappeared tomorrow, would you start over or would you walk away?
Um, well, I would start over, but like honestly, I'm kind of what's really weird is I feel quite proud of making the Tommy's margarita. And but I also think sometimes people put me in a corner of, okay, this guy made a cocktail. I think our strength or my strength is my breadth of knowledge in tequila. And I wish more of my guests took advantage of that because Tommy's is literally a place where you can go every day, and it's the only tequila bar in the world where you can drink things that no one drinks at a reasonable cost, right? I mean, I'm not the bar that has one bottle of XYZ vintage and it's $1 million a glass so I can have it last 20 years, you know.
Mm.
I mean, I opened up a 25-year-old bottle last week of Viva Mexico Añejo,
Wow.
and we're
Oh,
charging $28 for 2 ounces.
wow.
I think that's a fucking gift for those that want to have that experience.
You can't get a añejo from 2025 for $28.
I, you know, I mean, we're also, Tommy, we're very well aware that we're blessed that we own our building. We're not trying to, you know, I think our cocktails are still cheap for what they are,
Yeah.
and again, we're trying to provide some value, but the notion that you can go to a bar and drink something that no one else in the world gets to drink with regularity. Again, there's many great tequila collectors out there that have their treasure bottles, and most of them don't want to open them, but we're blessed, right? And
Yeah.
we, through great buying decisions, through only buying quality, I am blown away by the guests. And back to those tourists that they just ordered tequila without knowing what brand they had or what was offering. Just give me 4 shots of tequila, good, bad, or otherwise. That's not good enough for me. It's not. I want to know more, right?
Yeah.
But it's also for the few guests that appreciate that. We got a guest that came in from Miami the other day, and he's been coming for about a year, and he always has things that he just can't drink, and they're reasonably priced, and he has a wonderful time. And again, being able to step back in time and drink liquid history is really wonderful. I mean, it's wonderful.
So now, in the end, what matters to you more, the drink that you've invented or the culture that you've helped save?
Well, that's a great question. I honestly think that creating the cocktail will, quote unquote, allow Tommy's to be talked about longer than it will survive, right? Because I think we've made genuine contributions to the cocktail industry. But again, the feeling that your guest gets when he or she has a great time, you also have a great time, right? And again, I mean, I'm very sentimental. So having been around our restaurant and worked there the last 40 years and seen literally a generation of guests go from being a minor drinking Coca-Cola at Tommy's to having their first Tommy's Margarita to seeing them drink glasses of great tequila and then teaching their kids or their whatever, that's really, really a great feeling for me. And that's when your business transcends being a business, but being part of the community, right? Because in the end, I think all of us want to be part of a community. And I long to be part of a community and to share my experience, but also have my guests share their experiences. And I mean, Tommy's is like a living room. We're probably too intrusive because if I don't know you, I'll ask you, shit, what are you doing here? Right? Because I want to know why you're here.
Yeah, I've witnessed that firsthand where someone is in Tommy's for the first time and you lean right into them and ask them their life story. And at first they're kind of taken aback. And then they realize this is a safe place to be right now. And I'm going to
Yeah.
enjoy the tequila and talk to this guy.
Yep. That's the goal.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's a great business saying by I think it's Patricia Arquette. Uh, I think that's her name. No, I'm sorry, Patricia Fripp, the the sister of Robert Fripp, famous guitarist. She says if you want to have a successful business, don't uh, don't close a sale, open a relationship.
Wow.
Right. So we don't want you coming to Tommy's once. We want you to come to Tommy's for 60 years.
I normally ask this question to the majority of all of my guests. You're 6 feet under, you're cremated, whatever it is that you have planned. What do you want the tequila world to say about you when you're gone?
It's a great question. Well, so honestly, and Tommy knows this, my dream is still to make tequila. I mean, I think, that saying of those who can't teach, well, we'd like to be one of those who can. So hopefully, I have that opportunity before I'm 6 feet under. And if I do, then people will say that he made something good. At the end of the day, um, I think respect is the greatest business accomplishment one can attain, right?
Yep.
Well, Julio, thank you for your time. Where can everyone find you on social media?
So I'm not the most social media savvy person,
That's the thing. You can't find him on social media.
but yeah, I do have an Instagram page. I'm still trying to learn about it, and I'm kind of on Facebook, which nobody's on Facebook. But I'm at Tommy's almost every day, and literally, you know, if you want to talk about tequila, we love talking about it and showing people, and and we learn from them as well. So if you get a chance to come to San Francisco, we'd love to have you. But also, I encourage everybody to again, if you enjoy tequila and it's a slight passion of yours, learn as much as you can about it, because remember, it's something you're putting in your body. You should want to know what it is.
I agree 100%.
Yep. I just want to wish everybody a happy holiday, and hopefully 2025 was good for everybody. Or in 2026 is better for everybody, and definitely look forward to seeing everyone in Las Vegas soon.
Absolutely.
Well, Julio, we would love to see you in Vegas, hopefully before the new year, but if not, definitely after. Tommy, thank you so much for being a guest host.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Have a good night.
Have a great night. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Tommy.
Thanks, Julio.
Thank you.
Take care.